Hi guys. I wanted to talk about this Medicare for all. You guys in America are being sold by the left. Um, it frustrates the hell out of me because well, for the reason I'm doing this channel, it's the media just aren't doing their due diligence. They're not doing what they should be doing. It's their responsibility to to be showing you the facts and questioning these things and scrutinizing them. Um, and the whole Medicare for all thing, um, I mean, that's one of the cheaper proposals. I mean, we'll take the Green New Deal out of that because I think actually most kind of sane people realize that's an absurdity, and that's for the very hardcore left wing people. Excuse me, I just want to check. Yeah, no, thought I'd pause that. So I'm just going to run through some very simple things. First of all, I, as you can tell, am English and I'm from the UK. We have the NHS here. Um, the NHS is really good, but, and there's always a caveat, there's always a but, it has its problems. There's waiting lists. There's lots of stats that I could go through where it doesn't match up here and there, but basically the story with the NHS is two things. There's a constant struggle, as in there's never enough money. There's never enough money. They're always short staffed, underfunded, and this is why. So that it's basically it's become an institution that, because it's a bureaucracy and not a for-profit enterprise, it's become a bottomless well. So I don't want to take anything away from it, because for what it is and what they do, it's amazing, and it is wonderful being able to, if something happens, never have to worry about medical bills. And I mean, I haven't used the kind of hospital side of it all that much, but when I have, I've like the last time I think was a 3 week stay when I smashed my foot up. I was looked after very well, and then I walked out of there. Just walked out, no bill. Walked out with some free take home drugs as well. Big bag of painkillers and these injections for deep vein thrombosis, because that's the thing I'll get to as well. They are terrified of negligence and everything, because we also have private healthcare out here. But just quickly on that, so that visit I just referred to, 3 weeks, it did not need to be 3 weeks. I mean, I broke my foot, and I did have to have two operations, but not in that time. So I actually had to go back for the second operation to have the pins taken out. So long story short, it was one operation, and then possibly a week of recovery, and then out. So if it was a private facility, that's what would have happened. The reason it was 3 weeks is because I spent a good 10 days to 2 weeks just waiting, and I was told, and every night I was told to fast and not eat anything, because the next morning I was having my operation. And then and rightly so. I mean, apparently it was helicopters coming in from Afghanistan and places, and so obviously the soldiers and just whoever has more urgent need, um, of course takes your place. If you're comfy in a bed, just lying in pain with a broken foot, then you can sit there, and of course you're happy to do so because you're not paying anything. If you were paying for it, of course you'd be furious. And so there's a couple more points I want to make about socialized medicine and when it's done well, because in my country I'd say it's done incredibly well despite a huge amount of flaws. But I'm not going to go through all that because I don't want to bag on my own system, because it's great, and there's another reason I'll tell you why as well. But I did actually work in the NHS, not in anything to do with medicine, but I'm in IT, so I worked in the IT department, and just there I witnessed, I saw a lot of how the bureaucracy and the money wasted, basically. That I think I'll leave it at that. So on that's the thing. Mainly is it's a money pit. It's a never-ending money pit. It's a political football, so it's always used between the political parties as who can do more for the NHS, who's done worse, who's done this, who can bring down waiting lists, who can do this. And of course, there's not huge incentivization for UK English people to go into nursing and to be doctors, because frankly your earning potential is capped. So putting all that effort in and then realizing that you're going to be fairly capped, unless you become a doctor and specialize, and there are opportunities that way. But the thing that upsets me and always concerns me, and I even just ran for office in the recent election to terrible avail, but was to tackle that very issue, is because I think our nurses are just, well, our nurses over here just are it's truly a vocation for them. They are not in it for the money. They're just not. I mean, they're just the most wonderful, amazing people that just want to be nurses and be, salt of the earth type people. And they're overworked, they're underpaid, they're exhausted, and then of course there comes this potentially that can be quite dangerous. So there's loads of issues I could go into as to why a system like that doesn't work, and that's in a very small country like ours. Now, it was being and is being tested, because we're bursting at the seams in terms of, we're a tiny country, and immigration wise, I think we let more people in just legally than you do in the US. Don't quote me on that. So I'm keen on facts. So I'm going to say that's definitely not a fact, but I think, and obviously we've all got Google, we can look it up. But that's the issue with it, is we're struggling for resources and more people needing it. And with any of these programs, whether it would be welfare, whether it would be anything like that, I believe in a social safety net. I believe in that sort of thing. But as long as everyone's going along the right idea. So again, like you have in the States, we have a sort of underclass of people who take the welfare, I think you guys call it entitlements, as a lifestyle choice. And in my opinion, that should never be an option. Because it's, well, the main thing is it's completely degrading to the people that choose that, and if they have a life of that, they are totally unfulfilled. They're jealous, bitter, and angry at other people who are successful, and so on and so on. So I could go on a lot about that, but I want to get straight into this Medicare for all thing, because it's driving me crazy. The Medicare for all these programs, basically socialism, communism, works if there's like 10, 15, 20 people, and you're all really good friends. If you have a commune, if you have, family is a prime example of socialism or communism that works. But it's like if you have a commune of 20 people, and then suddenly a couple of people come along, and you've grown your stuff, you've harvested everything out, and you've worked it out. You've kind of allocated everything for the season, for the year, and you've worked out how much of everything everybody can have. And then if a couple of people come down the road and go, oh, those apples look nice, can I have one? And then maybe you go, yeah, and then maybe 5-10 people come back and say, oh, these guys have got really good apples. And then suddenly you're having to say, F off, these are our apples, we grew them, this is our stuff. So that's a really simplified way of looking at this, and the same applies to these government programs. Now, Medicare for all and all these things, a lot of the proponents, the cheerleaders for these ideas, they sort of mock the question of being asked. Well, not all of them, but sometimes mock the question of being asked, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, it's a fair enough question, and 9 times out of 10, the answer is raise taxes, the rich, the billionaires. And no one ever questions that. They just think, oh yeah, those billionaires, they and of course a lot of you watching this will be fully on board and understand what I'm saying, but if I can just get this message through to a few people just to understand and illustrate. So I'm looking here at potential cost. Now this is the CRFBD, Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. I think I can possibly, yeah. So this is it. So you've got various potential costs for Medicare for all. So it's in trillions of dollars over 10 years. And off the bat, that is a vague statement. Potential cost of Medicare for all over 10 years. So is that implementation? Is that, because there's so many factors. There's so many factors in terms of property, actual hospitals, people. There's so many factors, and so that is vague. I'm sure they'd probably go into more detail here, and perhaps in another video, if people want me to go into more detail and kind of look at it in more detail, then I will. But let's take this, because let's be honest, the highest estimate is probably is probably still way under. There isn't a single government scheme that comes in on budget, is there? And that was the other thing I wanted to say. I run my own business. I always have done, and the one thing in my opinion, is the worst people to give money to are bureaucrats, the government. They are professionals. I'll give them that. They are professionals at wasting money, at losing money. Most of them, in fact, basically all of them, have never ran a business. They don't understand what it takes to start a business from scratch. Some of the contempt that some people have for someone like Jeff Bezos, they have no idea how much work that man would have put in, and still, people like that, they're usually, I don't know his situation, but they're usually on their rockiest third marriage, they don't see their kids, they work exhaustively, and so it's not like they're living the high life, because the truth is people that successful are workaholics, and they can't, they find it very hard to find the work-life balance. So if we take 36 trillion and then we go to the font of all accurate knowledge, so of course this is nowhere near spot on, being Wikipedia, but it gives you a good idea. And again, when people use the term net worth, that is not their bank balance. Again, a lot of you watching, I'm sorry if I'm insulting your intelligence, but I'm just making the point. Of course, net worth is a number of things. Yes, it's to do with liquid assets, but it's also to do with all sorts of different assets. So things you might have in trust, things you might have in various different portfolios, in different things, in property. The business itself will own assets, of course. I mean, in Amazon's case, they own a fleet of massive aircraft and all sorts. I mean, they're monstrous. But so apparently Jeff Bezos' net worth is somewhere around 114 billion. So basically, if you liquidated Jeff Bezos to the point where he had nothing, you potentially would get 114 billion. Right. This is the top 15 richest Americans. So the top 15 American billionaires. So you got Jeff at the top at 114, Bill Gates at 106, Warren Buffett, Zuckerberg, etc., 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 until we get down to Mackenzie Bezos, who just happens to be part of Amazon and also has a cheeky 36.1 billion. And there's no surprises, Walmart here. For the other thing that's really important to note at this stage is these companies employ an extraordinary amount of people. So if you removed just one of these people from the economy, just remove them. And the reason I'm saying remove, there are people probably shouting, no, we're just going to wealth tax them. I'm going to wealth tax them. Well, I'm going to show you why a wealth tax is not even going to come close. But if you remove them, you remove. I mean, Amazon employs directly, I believe. Here we go. So this is an estimate from 2018. So just shy of 600,000. I'm sure that number's gone up, considering it's nearly 2020. Now that's direct employees. Of course, they have so many other things. So they have the Amazon marketplace. So there are thousands, if not millions, of people that make a business reselling retail stuff through their site, but also the way I make my living through Amazon Web Services. So I use their data services, and I have created my own networking infrastructure through AWS, and I provide various different services for all sorts of businesses, which then has a knock-on effect because, for example, some of my clients employ 20, 30, 40 people. I have loads of clients. So you see what I mean? The knock-on effect that Amazon has in terms of employing people, not just in the States, but globally. So that figure is you could probably safely say is indirectly. Again, I'd love to look into the actual facts, but at a guess, minimum 5 times as much as that. I'm guessing probably more, but again, I don't like to guess. But just to give you an idea, so we've got 36 trillion, and we've got your 15 richest Americans. So okay, you've got other people that have less billions, and then you've got millionaires who would be part of the wealth tax. However, whatever kind of tax you're talking about percentages of whatever the higher threshold. People proposing Medicare for all have got different ideas. But let's, for argument's sake, instead of trying to factor that in, let's just remove their wealth. And you could take more, but for example, just to illustrate this, you take these 15 billionaires and you clean them out. So you clean them out, you take all their money. That then removes every single Walmart in the US and every single job. So then those Walmart employees are not paying tax anymore. Same goes with Amazon. Same goes with Facebook, Google, Oracle, the whole shebang. They're all gone. Those companies are gone. Their employees are gone. So you're putting a load of people out of business at the same time. Not to mention the healthcare insurance industry, which would be decimated. And I don't know the figures on that, but I imagine there are hundreds of thousands of people employed in that sector, and that would have a knock-on effect on so many other industries. The thing, in fact, I'd like to sort of do a detailed thing of this, but I just wanted to do a as quick as possible video because I've been watching what she called Elizabeth Warren going on about this Medicare for all. Amazing, from a woman who wrote that fantastic book, the two income trap, or something. Brilliant book. I think she used to be a conservative or a Republican. But either way, who cares? I don't care about ideology. I just that book is spot on, and it's what a lot of my friends and family are actually going through at the moment. That whole problem of if you both go to work, then one of you is basically working to pay for the childcare that's enabled you to go to work. And so anyway, I digress. Take these 15 people, so you can do the rough math. 114, 106, 80. Okay, you haven't even got to $1 trillion there. What have you got to? 900 billion? Yeah, about 900 billion. 41. There's 100 billion. There's 100 billion. 900 billion. So not even $1 trillion. So yeah, and that's the same. So 36 trillion. Oh, okay. 13.8 trillion is the lowest estimate, just to get it started and for the first 10 years. If you clean out the top 15 wealthiest billionaires in America, clean them out, destroy them, decimate their industry, remove all those jobs, which will have a knock-on effect on the markets, on the industry, it would have catastrophic effects. You would end up with less than $1 trillion, and then that's spent. That's done, and it hasn't even made a dent. So then what have you got to do? You've got to borrow, you've got to print more money, and then you've got to create more inflation and terrible interest rates for people. So people always say, oh, wealthy people can live off their investments. Well, not in America or the UK, they can't. Not with the interest rates as low as they are. And then what's the other argument they use? Let's go back to my full screen ugly mug. The other argument they use is, or they sneer at, is, oh, the millionaires, billionaires, that they'll just leave. they have left. They have left. They have so much of their money, their investments, property, offshore. They already have left. And they had and were taking all their companies abroad, and still are. I mean, those Trump headline ones, that's a few, and everyone sort of goes, "Oh wow, brilliant!" But there's a lot more that are still moving offshore rapidly. So I think that what did I look at anything else about the private insurance? Yeah, I was just researching that. So I might do a more in-depth video. Hopefully you guys found that interesting. I just wanted to make that point, because if you take that, so that those are the richest people. So then if you spread it out to the people who maybe have got 1 or 2 billion, and then the people who've got lots of million, and then whatever the wealth tax idea is, so however many percent over the first 10 million, or you do the maths, you're not going to get close to the figure of if you just cleaned out 15, 20, 30 of the richest people. There was a American guy who now lives in the UK, and I think he's crusading for. It's a very sad story. I think he lost his son or daughter. Don't quote me on that. It's a really sad story, and he's ended up in the UK, and he's fighting for rights, for money and sort of things for the NHS, which this all of this comes from a good place, and it's a noble cause, and I'm not knocking any of it, but I'm just one of those practical people, and it annoys me the way people come up with the ideas. They get duped thinking, oh yeah, that's of course Medicare for all, it would be wonderful. And then the media don't challenge them on any of it. They don't say, how's this going to work? Okay, after 10 years, then what do you do? Where does the money come from? Because I tell you who ends up getting screwed every single time is the middle class and the working class. The richest people have either done a bunk, they've done a runner, or in this case, if they ever do that, they've been cleaned out. But they're gone, and it's us left paying for it. And you get a substandard service, and for what you guys in America have an amazing healthcare system. Not sure why your infant mortality rate is so high. It's an interesting one. I'd like to study that. I mean, it's not high, but in comparison to very developed nations, it's higher than the UK's, I believe. Again, don't quote me on that, but I just remember noting that it was surprisingly high considering it was the USA. But basically, moving to this system, if it was possible, if you could hoodwink and get the money, the thing you're left with is not good. It is not good. It's waiting lists. It's people dying on beds in hallways while they're waiting for a room. It's frantic emergency rooms on certain nights. It's less staff over the weekend. We have a higher death rate over the weekend because there's less staff. Now, I'm not knocking our system, because it's great, but that is in a very small country, and we still have these problems. It still costs a fortune. There's still never enough money, and often, a lot of times, when the money comes in, it's wasted and not put to the best of use because there's a management culture. That's one for another story. If it was to happen in the United States of America, it would be a catastrophe of epic proportions, because you cannot manage something of that scale and expect the government to do it. At the moment, it's a for-profit enterprise, and it's good. You're at the cutting edge of modern medicine and innovation and all the rest of it, and you'd lose all that. There's an argument. Oh well, if you wanted to keep your private health insurance, with what? If you decimate the private health insurance market, who the hell is going to be able to afford one of these rare policies? For what? To go for what? If everything is Medicare for all, every hospital, where do you go? Do you go into a little special room where you get growled at by all the other people, poor people that are waiting in line? It's nonsense that, oh, they can still keep their thing. If they're proposing a wholesale, like complete nutter removal of the current system and forcing everybody to, which is the only way it would work, incidentally, then it's a disaster. That's coming from somebody in the UK who loves the NHS. I've worked in the NHS. I've seen how it works inside, and that is in a country of 60 million people. Are we 60 million people? Or is that just London? Hang on a second. I think I might have UK population for embarrassing myself. Still on video. I'm not going to edit this out. I was right. 66.44 million. And the US population is 327.2. Enough said. Please share this, spread this, thumbs it up. I know I've said it on other videos, although they've hardly been watched, but please share this with anyone you want to either win the argument on, or anyone who's curious, because this isn't some malicious, like, gotcha, you're stupid. I just actually am concerned for you guys in the States, because if one of these, I won't be disparaging, one of these Democrat candidates got in, I think they're all on board with Medicare for all in some shape or form, it would be an absolute disaster for your country, and it would be a power grab of epic proportion. And since when have the government been any good at anything? Take your guys's well, what's the famous thing in the States? The DNV, the post office, the DNV. Anything run by the government is crap, and it is in the UK as well. We're stuck with the NHS now, and so we have to make the best out of a bad situation. I would love to be able to have some kind of input, because we need to have a management structure that looks at it as if it was a for-profit enterprise, so people start acting that way, rather than trying to game the system of how they can maintain the same grant, the same amount of money they got the previous year, or try and get more money for new initiatives the next year, which don't actually achieve anything, when actually the frontline staff, the nurses and the doctors and the people that matter, should just be being paid twice as much, and there should be more of them, so they're not so overworked. But that's here. But so if we've got those kind of problems on that scale with 60 odd million, and you have a country 337.2 million people and a massive hospital infrastructure, just letting a arrogant, and I'm afraid that's the only word for it, an arrogant government just go to town on a massive industry, and by extension just the domino effect on industry after industry connected, it would be catastrophic. And that is not an exaggeration. It is a massive concern. I worry for you guys. So I will shut up again, because I've gone on way too long. If you'd like me to do anything more in depth and actually look more deeper into the plans and things, because I guess that's probably the critique I'd get. Oh, well, you don't understand what we're going to do. I mean, I have been very simplistic, but I think in terms of just the money, the very simple things, the money grab, allowing the government to control it, and then losing the for-profit incentive. So you lose all that innovation, and you just people lose the will to they just end up doing the bare minimum because they're not going to get paid more. There's no incentive to continue. It's just it's a no-brainer. But I'm open to hearing ideas. I'll do a more in-depth one, and there's more videos like this to come. Yeah, please thumbs it up. Please subscribe as well. I've just worked out that really helps grow a channel. I've started this from scratch a few days ago. I really want to do things like this, important stuff. I'm fascinated by US politics. So especially going into election year, I'll be doing a daily thing. God, I was glued to it in 2016. I think that's probably what really got me fully into it. So I'll be doing it from next year. I'll be doing election specials every day, talking head pieces, but I'm also going to do some edited and more interesting stuff as well, because I actually really enjoy this. So please, if you value what I'm doing, if you like my stuff, if you like this video and found it interesting, informative, or worthwhile, please thumbs it up, share it on Twitter or whatever, tell your mates, and yeah, subscribe, and yeah, please watch this space for more slightly amateur but getting better by the day content. Cool. Peace out. Cheers.